Reuters is reporting that Secretary of State John Kerry is posturing on Russia getting involved in the Syrian civil war. This is something that's a red flag, if you ask me. They say, quote, Kerry said on Wednesday, Russia's military support for Assad could raise the risk of confrontation with coalition forces fighting ISIS there. So here's a direct quote from Kerry. These actions could provoke a further escalation of the conflict and lead to the loss of more innocent lives, increasing the flow of refugees and risking a confrontation with the anti-ISIS coalition operating in Syria. So Russia has built up naval infantry forces and heavy equipment, including tanks and helicopters, at one of Syria's air bases. And U.S. officials say that this is raising the possibility of air combat missions in Syrian airspace. So here's why this story is really important. It makes no sense. Now, I say that because according to their own argument, according to the government's own official argument, it makes no sense. So they claim we're first and foremost, we are concerned about ISIS, we are concerned about al-Nusra, we are concerned about Khorasan, we are concerned about all these jihadist groups that are functioning in Syria as the rebels to Assad and the Syrian regime. That's the main argument they make. That's not what I'm saying, that's what they're saying. And now, a year and a half ago, they would have said, no, Assad's the main problem. They stopped saying that, they flipped, and they said, okay, no, ISIS is the problem, and ISIS is fighting Assad. So let's think this through here. Russia steps in and says, okay, the Syrian regime is faltering, they're not as strong as they were, this is a really long war, they're kind of falling down now. We are going to go in there and back up the Syrian regime, which means we're going to fight the rebels, which means we're going to fight ISIS and al-Nusra, and the U.S. is like, I can't believe you're doing that. You're going to fuck everything up here. Why are you getting involved? If I was president, if I was in the government, I'd be fucking doing cartwheels in my office. Russia just admitted to you, yeah, we're going to go in there and do the dirty work. We're going to go in there and clean up. We're going to try to get rid of ISIS. We're going to try to beat the jihadists, and we're going to back up the Syrian regime. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. Is what I'm saying, oh, I'm endorsing Assad and every human rights atrocity that he's done, and I'm in favor of killing civilians when he does it. Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. But what I am saying is, according to our own government line, now our biggest concern is ISIS. Russia says here, we're going to go in there and fight ISIS, and the U.S. is like, fucking Russia. Why would you be upset? You've said time and time again, Republicans and Democrats have said, well, we don't want ground troops in there, which I agree with. But we're doing airstrikes, and now Russia's like, okay, we're basically going to help with the airstrikes. We're going to go after ISIS. And we're like, no. You're like a toddler. What's wrong with you? Again, you should be cheering this. Now, I get it. The real concern they have is, well, we don't want to see Russia get any bigger militarily. We don't want to see them flex any more muscle because that could be a bad sign and that could show future aggression and expansion and blah, 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 blah. That's the argument they make. But it's a loose argument. It's an argument that already rests on the premise that Russia equals bad, and anything they do, by definition, is escalation of their conflict with us, and anything we do in response is, by definition, escalation of the conflict with them. And the problem with a guy like John Kerry on this issue is that he's like, yeah, let's escalate it further. So Russia's like, we're going to go fight ISIS. And they're like, how dare you escalate the conflict between us? Basically he's saying, back down. This could raise the risk of confrontation with coalition forces fighting ISIS there. No, it can't, because they're telling you we're on your side if you're fighting ISIS. So it fucking bothers me to no end. And remember, guys, this is not an endorsement of anything wrong Assad may have done. This is not an endorsement of anything wrong Putin does. I'm not saying Putin is lovely and America sucks. It's not the argument I'm making by any stretch of the imagination. But what I am saying is, according to our own official line, our own stated logic in Syria, Russia says, we agree with you, we're going to help you with that, and we go, fucking Russia, fuck you. Why are you escalating this? Why are you, raising the risk of confrontation with coalition forces by agreeing with us and fighting the people that we say we want to fight? This is nonsense. But again, what it really comes down to is, and we've spoken about it before, the U.S. is like a chicken with its head cut off when it comes to Syria. for reasons I already stated. At the beginning, we were like, oh, Assad's terrible, we got to go topple him. Then we flipped to, no, the people fighting Assad are terrible, we got to fight alongside Assad against these people. And today, they're still caught in limbo in that conflict. They don't like either side. So what are they doing? Well, just recently they announced, okay, we're still mostly attacking ISIS, but every once in a while, if we see some Syrian forces aligned with Assad, we're going to attack them too. What the fuck? So you're literally arguing the Obama administration is saying we're going to do what George Bush did in Iraq when they got in the middle of a civil war and everybody flipped the fuck out. The Obama administration is like, yeah, we're going to do the same thing. Why would you do that? There's no reason to do that because the bottom line is it doesn't really come down to, hey, who's violating human rights, who's a bad actor here, who are jihadists. That has nothing to do with it. What it really comes down to is the global chessboard of geopolitical power. What it really comes down to is the U.S. knows Assad is aligned with Russia and Iran. We're not so hot on Russia and Iran. We would like it if we had control of that region. We would like it if we had our own puppet regime in that particular region of the world. So we want to have our cake and eat it too now. We know we don't like the rebels because, again, they're jihadists. We know we don't like Assad. So in the mind of the idiots in Washington, they think just arm anybody to take over the region and then make that person loyal to us. That's what they think, which is why we have people like General Petraeus who said, let's arm moderate al-Qaeda members. Not kidding. You think I'm strawmanning? You go read the fucking articles. You go look in the Secular Talk archive. We did a long piece on it. Everybody knows this news. It came out recently. This is how we've gotten to that point, guys. We have a bunch of morons in Washington that view everything through the lens of imperialism and view everything through the lens of a power struggle, even going back to a Cold War power struggle. And as a result of that, even if somebody else does something that we should be happy about, like fighting ISIS, we go, how dare you fight ISIS?